What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Roman's Creative Academy. As always, I'm Jay.
And I'm Mike.
And this week's episode, we're going to be talking about what the difference between a contract for deed versus a mirror wrap and what those two entail. So let's first start off with what is a contract for deed. And that is exactly what it sounds like. It is when you go under contract, right? You have an agreement with the seller, and the deed stays in limbo until the terms of that contract is met. That can take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever your agreement is with that seller, they have to be met before that title or deed is put into your name.
Exactly. And a lot of times contract for deeds are good if you're the seller or if a seller is selling to somebody else who is going to be living in the home. Now, a mirror wrap is something that's a little bit different. So a mirror wrap is a method used to purchase a home with a form of creative financing. Basically what that means is that you are buying the home subject to the existing debt on the home, but a new mortgage is placed around the old mortgage, right? And it mirrors the old debt. And the deed of the home is transferred on the day of closing, not once the mortgage is paid off like a contract for deed. So if you close on December 1st, the deed of the home will get transferred to you. Where with a contract for deed, the deed of the home would not transfer to you until the terms of the mortgage, of the note, of the contract are met. Based on the terms provided inside of them.
So essentially, the difference between the two is really when you get title, right? Is it immediately or is it down the road when the terms are met from the agreement, right?
Now, why would somebody want to do a contract for deed versus a mirror wrap or vice versa? A contract for deed is good, like I had mentioned, if you're going to be selling a home to a homeowner. Now, I've also used this in my negotiation tactics on the seller financing deals or things of that nature. If the seller has a big hesitation of transferring the deed unless the term is met. And we have done this in the past, right? And the reason for a contract for deed or why this would be happening is typically more on the seller's side. And the seller is more protected since the deed isn't fully transferred, and in the case of default, the seller would have a little bit more recourse and it would be a quicker process. Now, on the flip side, why would somebody want to do a mirror wrap, right? And now this is really good for the buyer side or for you as an investor, right? You not only get to take over the debt of the home on the seller's behalf, meaning that it won't be in your name, but you also get full ownership of the home, meaning you get all of the benefits without the seller being attached to you or the home by any means except for that mortgage. So, in other words, you're buying with full control, where with a contract for deed, the seller is still attached.
Story time. Mike, when is a time that we've used contract for deed versus a mirror wrap? And I can think of one.
Absolutely. So actually, just bringing that up, we just did one. So we had a seller. This is a crazy story, and I won't get into the whole thing. We should probably just do an episode on this one alone. But we had.
Let us know if you want to know about this deal. It was complex.
It was crazy. So we had a seller reach out to us. It was referred to by a realtor friend of ours, and he couldn't do anything with it. Seller's home was going to the auction in less than a month. Well, if in Pennsylvania, if you're not aware, it typically takes about 4 weeks minimum to get a deal closed start to finish with a normal deed with everything. So what we did was one of our students, she buys in the area where this property was, and this would have been a normal mirror wrap or a deal where you're just taking over the payments and you get the deed of the home. Well, we didn't have enough of time for all that. So what we did was we did an expedited title search with all the lien letters, and instead of having to go through getting a mortgage and a note and the recording and blah, 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 which takes time, we had no time. So the title company said, let's just do a subject to deal, but with a contract for deed, and it'll speed everything up tremendously. So we closed that baby in 14 days, and this is where contract for deed came in handy. The way that the contract for deed was set up, the buyer was totally protected, the seller was totally protected, and it cut back on having to create all the extra documentation that you normally would. No, it's not ideal and it's not the first choice, but this is the only way we all were able to make the deal happen and fast.
As many of you may know, real estate transactions are all on a case-by-case basis. So this was a case where we pulled out this tool and used the contract for deed instead of the normal mirror wrap that we do. And in another instance, we use contract for deed when we're actually talking to other investors that don't feel comfortable giving that deed up to the buyer. So it really just depends on what the seller is looking for, what the situation is, whether you use one or the other. You can really put all the protections in place for both.
I will say this. This is kind of like a key bonus nugget for you guys. It is way cheaper on closing costs if you do a contract for deed than if you did a traditional mirror wrap. There's actually a ton more fees that will be added. So if you're looking for a cost-effective method to get a deal done, maybe you're just getting started, or maybe another part of the deal is very expensive, this is a option. Just throwing that nugget in there.
Never, 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 ever, ever self-perform. Meaning you do your own title search on, a mirror wrap or a subject to deal if you've never done it before. So with that being said, I know that this was a lot. This was a lot of information thrown at you that if you're a beginner, you might not know some of the terminology. So if you have questions, please, please, please feel free to ask us in our website, www.romanscreativeacademy.com/ask, and ask away. We are more than happy to answer your questions live like we do here.
And these are a lot of the things that we do go over with our students as well, and we always start them off with the terminology as well as go deep into each one of these strategies, and we make sure that we're with them step by step when they're actually using them real time in the real world. So guys, if, like Jay said, if you have questions about these things, make sure to drop them in the link that Jay just said. And if you're interested in being a student of ours, we are opening up the doors to our coaching program. If you do go to the website of romanscreativeacademy.com as well, you'll also see a link to be able to apply. Make sure to do so.
We only do one-on-one coaching at this moment. So if that's what you're looking for, we got your back.
Remember, if you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and let us know what more you'd like to see from us.
See you guys.